society to ours, the Senate has been in a state of steady decline, as the decentralized, open, and relatively obstruction-free institution that the framers created was transformed into something altogether unrecognizable. Always known for its plodding pace, today's Senate has become utterly calcified. Not all the changes that have shaped the modern Senate occurred within the institution itself. In the 1950s, party affiliation was not always tied to ideology, and bipartisanship thrived amid the endless cross-party combinations that were possible on any given issue. Many conservatives were Democrats, and many liberals were Republicans. Indeed, the most conservative members of the Senate at the time were Democrats, and some of the most liberal were members of the GOP. With senators casting their votes according to cross-cutting regional and ideological alliances more than party loyalty, the most significant issues of the day were commonly decided by bipartisan votes. Today, the nation is largely sorted by party, by ideology, by geography, and more. But in large part, the Senate's decline was set in motion by senators themselves, who found that suffocating the institution with genteel gridlock served their interests. Motivated by their all-consuming desire to protect Jim Crow and building on the work of obstructionists who had come before them, Southern senators of the early 20th century honed a procedural tool to empower, for the first time in American history, a minority of senators to systematically block bills favored by the majority. The Senate sits at the heart of American government, and every bill that becomes a law must pass through it. The Senate also controls the confirmation of every federal judge, from the district courts up to the Supreme Court, along with the confirmations of thousands of positions in the executive branch. By imposing their will on the Senate, the nerve center of American government, a minority of senators found they could impose their will on the entire nation. In the Jim Crow era, Southern senators were driven to create new means of obstruction by one overriding goal: preserving white supremacy. They faced a Congress and a public that wanted to take at least rudimentary steps toward basic protections for Black Americans decades before the first post-Reconstruction Civil Rights Bill finally passed in 1957. From the 1920s through the 1940s, legislation to end poll taxes, combat lynching, and roll back employment discrimination possessed everything bills had previously needed to become law. They were passed by majorities in the House of Representatives, supported by majorities in the Senate, and backed by presidents of both parties. The support these measures enjoyed in Congress was consistent with public opinion at the time. In 1937, Gallup conducted its first poll of federal anti-lynching laws and found support at 72% nationally, with majorities favoring them in every region, including the South, where support was at 57%. Gallup first canvassed the public on poll taxes in 1941 and found that 63% of Americans supported ending them. Protecting Black Americans from extrajudicial killings and improving their access to the ballot were woefully insufficient steps at best, merely enforcing the rights already guaranteed by the 14th and 15th Amendments, and would have still left them facing widespread oppression and deeply ingrained racism in every region of the country. Even so, some of the civil rights measures that enjoyed majority support during this period were comparable to those that would appear in the 1957 bill that cracked open the door to meaningful progress. But for decades before that bill passed, in the face of majority support, Southern senators' obstructionist innovations succeeded in blocking every civil rights bill that came before the nation. By the time I arrived in the Senate, the tool developed by Southern senators to block civil rights bills in the Jim Crow era had come to be applied to all Senate business. Today, it is the norm for pragmatic solutions to urgent problems of all kinds, backed by broad majorities in Congress and the public, to fail in the face of obstruction by a minority of senators. The grind of relentless gridlock has rendered the once dynamic cloakroom lifeless and has broken the institution itself. This expansion